Welcome to another episode of the Coffee Conversation Show, powered by the Emerging India Forum, TEIF, and our tech partner, Prime Infotech Solution. Series is The Emerging Lawyer. Theme is Championing Labor Rights, Navigating Employment. We have with us distinguished guest, Dr. Shrikant Malegaonkar, a renowned advocate and consultant specializing in labor laws and industrial relations. Beyond his legal practice, Dr. Malegaonkar is a distinguished author, speaker, educator who has shared his expertise at prestigious institutions worldwide. So it's an honor to have you as a guest speaker at our Coffee Conversation Show. Let me explain you the format. We have 3 rounds: professional, personal, and a rapid fire round. So welcome again to today's Coffee Conversation, Dr. Shrikant.
Thank you.
Yeah. So friends, I'm Lain Amir Virani, your host for Coffee Conversation and a legal tech evangelist at Prime Infotech Solution. So my first question for you, sir, for your professional journey round, what inspired you to specialize in labor laws and industrial relations, and how the journey has been till date?
First and foremost, there are two reasons for it. My father was a bit connected with labor industrial law. He has authored almost 6-8 books on labor laws. That was a motivation number one. Secondly, I stay in Pune, wherein the industrial belt is too huge. When one can afford a specialization in labor industrial law, because there is a dearth of lawyers even today, as far as labor industrial law is concerned, because of the size of the industries, right from say hotels to multinationals to everything you can say, whatever you can be term up as an industry within the meaning of the Industrial Disputes Act, everything you can see it in Pune. And that is why what we have is that a specialization was possible. My father, of course, he motivated me. He is my mentor, guide, guru, everything. And in a way, that soft prodding was there, which persuaded me ultimately to take up labor industrial law as specialization. Earlier things were different, but listening to the discourses, of course, I'll call it a discourse, which my father used to give me almost every evening. And then I understood that what I learned in law colleges was, I'll not say altogether different, but then every branch of law is an ocean in itself, and so is labor industrial law.
Yes.
And then as a guide guru, he was with me, and with the industrial belt besides. So the things were appeared to be a bit rosy as far as labor industrial law were concerned. And maybe a bit of a laziness with me that, I chose a path wherein my father was already there. Yeah. So that's what made me come to labor industrial law.
Wow. That's interesting journey, sir. Now, you are a multi-facet personality, being a consultant, then a trainer, then an author. So I'll just go step by step in my conversation to cover each aspects of your journey. So first, let's understand how labor laws have evolved over the years in India, sir.
Labor law, the evolution has been way since the Industrial Revolution. First, it is the British days. In my training programs, I begin in the year 1600. And after 1600, 1757, we had the Battle of Plassey. Britishers, they came as traders, then they became rulers, started factories at the Hooghly, and at that time it was not Chennai, it was Madras and Surat and all of that. 1857 was a turning point, as we all know, when we had the first War of Indian Independence. And then so many of them. Thereafter, when the ruling of the East Indies came under the direct suzerainty of the British Crown, we really have an evolvement, an evolution of laws made by the Indian Penal Code or the Criminal Procedure Code. In 1872, we had the Indian Contract Act. And then things crystallized down in 1885 when we had Narayan Meghaji Lokhande, who is rightly called as the father of the Indian trade union movement. He took the reins into himself. And then there were others also, B.P. Wadia, Maniben Kara, they of course came later. But in those days, Narayan Meghaji Lokhande, my admiration for this person grew when I understood one thing about him, that question is, who started the Sunday? You and me both enjoy a Sunday. When I was in school, which is the best day of the week, and it was a Sunday. And in college, again it's a Sunday. And as a lawyer today, which is the best day of the week, again it's a Sunday. That Sunday fever starts with me on Thursday evening itself. And then I calculate Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then is Sunday. So Sunday is going to be a holiday. But who started the Sunday? The credit goes to Narayan Meghaji Lokhande. Somewhere in June 1890, it's then we all of us enjoyed the first Sunday. And as I said, the credit goes to Narayan Meghaji Lokhande. And then we saw we come into another era, that is the 19th century, which is called as the Gandhian era into labor laws. 1911, we had a young Indian visiting India from South Africa. His name was Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. And then 1914, we had the First World War. Indian soldiers, forget soldiers, they were farmers. They were packed into ships and sent to fight on the European soil. And a fight or a war didn't, a battle or a war didn't mean you take a machine gun and fire at each other for 24 hours. There were idle moments. And what do Indians do in idle moments? They just chat with each other even today. Same were the things which our soldiers did with the other counterparts. They asked them as to what happens in your country. And the other foreign soldiers said, well, in the morning, government gives us tea, then government sends breakfast, then government gives us lunch, and then we have dinner also. The Indians started looking at each other because all these things were absent in India. So when our soldiers came back in 1914, they brought along with them the gospel of trade unionism. They started telling their friends, do you know what's happening on the other part of the globe? People are getting overtime, people are getting this thing, people are getting gratuity, provident fund. What are you and me getting? A big zero. This started consolidating Indians. And in 1917, we had the Red Revolution. What Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels wrote in the Communist Manifesto, that each according to his abilities, to each according to his needs. You'll work as per your ability, but take the things as per your need. And this was the advent of communism, I mean, which is not a part of our discussion right now. But then people like S.A. Dange and M. Joshi went to Soviet Russia, and then they took lessons into trade unionism. And when they came back, the communists started their first federation, which is the ITAC, that is All India Trade Union Congress in 1919, which is a communist dominated body. And in those days, there was only one Congress. This ABCD Congress is later creation. There was only Mahatma Gandhi Congress. So they also started their federation, which is called as INTEC, that is Indian National Trade Union Congress. It still has its headquarters in New Delhi. And then we started having different laws. 1923, we had the Workmen Compensation Act. I mean, today the name is changed. But then in 1926, we had the Trade Unions Act. Then we had, say, 1936, the Payment of Wages Act. 1942, we all know we had the Quit India movement or the Chale Jao Andolan. 1946, we had the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act. I mean, what are the rules which are applicable to industries? 1947, 15th of August, we all know we became independent. And on the eve of the Indian independence, there were no laws which could constitute as a backbone for the Indian industry. And that is why the first 5-year plan was laid down. We all know Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru was the first Prime Minister of independent India. And the Prime Minister is the ex officio chairman of the Planning Commission of India. And then the foundations were laid down, all these big industries, Bhakra Nangal, Damodar Valley Corporation, Nagarjun Sagar, Bharat Heavy Electric, Steel Authority of India. And there was a mushrooming of industries all over. Then in 48, we had some other laws, say Factories Act 1948, the Minimum Wages Act. Then we had the mother document, that is the Constitution, which was given unto us, which contained social justice in the preamble itself. The total edifice, the foundation of labor laws is social justice. That is in the vernacular called as Samajik Nyay. And thereafter, we had in 52 the Provident Fund Act. And likewise, so many laws. 1961, we had the Maternity Relief Act. Then you had 1965, the Bonus Act. 1970, we had the Contract Labor Regulation and Abolition Act. 1971, in state of Maharashtra, we had the Maharashtra Recognition of Trade Unions and Prevention of Unfair Labor Practices Act. Then came up judgments. 1978, we had the famous judgment, Bangalore Water Works and Sewerage Board. versus Rajappa. Until the story continues till 2013, when we had the Sexual Harassment of Women Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. And and now the law, I would say, as far as sexual harassment is yet in a nascent stage, only 10 years have passed. So the case laws are not all that rich in comparison, say, with the Indian Contract Act 1872. So things are moving. Yes, yeah.
That's good. That's good. So now, in your experience, how has an SME entrepreneur and a corporate company take the seriousness for labor laws compliance?
Yeah, as far as SMEs, or I would call them startups, they're in a way miniature industrialists. You cannot compare them with, say, Tatas or Ambanis. I mean, they are all big houses in India, Birlas and Singhanias and Tatas. So they have a huge setup. Capital is huge. And then there are some youngsters who want to do something. They want to change the face of India. Prime Minister has also declared so many concessions, schemes, and we all want to go into a new India. And what about their awareness of labor laws? Well, some of them are aware, some of them, most of them are not aware. I mean, they are all spending their time, money, energy on building up a business. But at the same time, some have made huge Himalayan blunders also. I mean, say, for example, I'll just give you an example. I know a startup wherein they started with a big bang and ultimately appointed so many people. There were more than 20, and after 20 the provisions of the Provident Fund Act are applicable.
Yes.
These people never took up even a code number under the Provident Fund Act. The dues, the permissible deductions were not paid, and when it is 20, it's the Provident Fund Act. At the figure 10 is the employee state insurance. So that code number also was not there. Ultimately these people landed up in a soup, and then the penalties are very high, 100% damages. So what profits were made were dissipated into paying the government back. So they ought to have been aware. So one cannot start a business being oblivious of all the labor laws which are existing. I mean, a little bit of a knowledge is important. See, we purchase a car. Car is good. It's beautiful. This engine, that engine, 2 liter engine, and the power is good. But if he don't, and the driver is also good. But if he doesn't have a license, will that be allowed? Today or tomorrow, he is going to get caught. Same goes with labor laws. So whatever are the compliances, we'll have to follow them. Where the startups, maybe out of ignorance, but then ignorance of law is no excuse at all. So they ought to be knowing the laws also, at least the basic ones.
Wow.
Yes.
So now working with HR managers, advocates, or labor laws consultant, how does, sorry, my question will be, you're working with the HR managers. So if they don't tell you the facts and figures and they come up with a case and they hide, so what will happen for a labor law consultant when he is in a matter is sub judice? And so what are the key points when you approach the company, the HR person, by everything is being said to you in 100%, nothing has been hidden. So from your experience, you have faced anything like, and how do you go about dealing with HR managers, taking on companies on board in your consultancy at Malegaonkar and Associates?
First thing, mentally, whenever for the first time somebody meets me, I take them through a mental inventory. He's not aware what I'm asking him, but for which, I mean, there has to be a context. The text of the law is one thing, but it is the context which will give it a color. So we have to understand the context first. So what's the context? 0 to 10 is, I mean, hardly any laws are applicable. Labor laws, I mean. After 10 comes into picture, Gratuity Act 1972. After 10 comes into picture, the ESI Act. After 10 is the Sexual Harassment of Women Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act. Then we come to the figure 20. After 20 is the Provident Fund Act. Then we come to the figure 40. Say in state of Maharashtra, after 50 the provisions of the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act, under which model standing orders are framed, they are automatically applicable. And then the last figure, as far as plantations, mines, and factories are concerned, Chapter 5B of the Industrial Disputes Act applies. So whenever a new person comes, an HR manager, I take him through this drill. How many people are working with you? Whether you have taken licenses, whether you have this thing, is there a committee appointed, who is the chairperson of the sexual harassment committee? So these are some mental inventory questions I have, which I pose it to them, which gives me a fair picture as to what is he following and what is he not following. It also enlightens me on that topic as to how much is he knowing about it and how much is he ignorant of it, which makes my posture very clear. And then I try to take him, guide him in whatever way I can. Let's see, you have to do this thing first. We have to do this thing first. And it also happens many a times, I will not say he does it deliberately, that he hides something from me. But then at times, well, to err is human. Sometimes he misses out something. Sometimes you are really into a soup and you are stuck up in court. Sometimes you are dumbfounded. Judge asks you a question, then you look at the HR manager and he says, I don't know this. You never asked me this. I thought you asked me this, but I answered you this way. So all those permutation and combinations of human behavior, you can see them. But at the fag end, because he has been through n number of government machineries, whether it's the labor office, whether it's the factory inspector, this or that point of time. So he is also, if at all he is put in, say, 5 to 10 years of service as an HR or an IR manager, then he knows half the thing. I will not say the amendments or the intricacies of it, but he is quite an enlightened soul. Yeah.
Wow, perfectly explained. So now my next question will be your experience working with international companies and Indian companies related to industrial relations.
Yeah, they are fundamentally different. When the process of legal practice itself is of evolution. In a way, my father planted a sapling, then I carried it forward. You can say I nurtured it, I watered that sapling. And then there was one client, and then there were two, and then again God was kind, so he sent me 3 more. So it goes on growing. It also depends on your hard work and sincerity, and all those constants in life would be there. But then what happened, my experience with multinationals has been different. Every country has its own system of working. Say, for example, names are not important, but then say American clients. American clients, the moment you have a case, then they want to have a meeting with you. And in the meeting, they want to have a total brainstorm. Why is it this way? Why? And all the while, they are comparing things with United States of America. And then they say, yes, in America, it's this way. So this is almost parallel. Ultimately, what we find is everything on earth is the same. The basics would remain the same. Little bit of here and there regulations are different.
Yes.
English companies, India, of course, was controlled by or ruled by the Britishers for so many years. Yes. So whether Britishers took some lessons from Indians or Indians have taken some lessons from the Britishers, that is a big question mark. But then we both are Commonwealth countries. So the principles of natural justice, most of the laws, the edifice, the foundation remains the same. With other countries, work culture is different. German companies is, he says, when will this work be ready? And I tell him it would be ready on 18th of September. Till 17th of September, he'll not even call me. But on 18th of September, the work has to be ready. There will be no Tariq pe Tariq phenomena, which is quite prevalent in India. And procrastination, I do it tomorrow, then I do it day after tomorrow. So this is not being tolerated by these multinationals. Korean companies are still different. I remember there was a meeting I had with a Korean company, and it was 6 o'clock in the evening. The meeting went on till say 8 p.m. And at 8 p.m., yes, it's dinner time. So I said, okay, let me bid a goodbye to everybody. And by the way, I said, when is the next meeting? They said at 6 o'clock. Now you see, as an Indian, I took it. It is 8 p.m. right now. So 6 o'clock means 6 p.m. tomorrow is my Indian mind took it. So, but then I again had the courage to ask them. I said, 6 o'clock when? They said in the morning. So I'm just going home, sleeping and coming back in the morning. That is their work culture. Because these companies believe they have come here to work. And it's not like wandering somewhere in the garden. No, that's not the approach. The approach is very, very serious. So this is a marked difference which I found out between Indian companies and India. The phenomena chalta hai is not something which is tolerated there. They are more strict in their approach. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, which we'll discover in your as a trainer journey. So
Yeah.
I'm coming to that now. Part.
Sure.
So how's the journey been lecturing at institutions like the prestigious London School of Economics?
Yeah, but I had an occasion to deliver lectures at the London School of Economics, School of Oriental and African Studies, London, at the University of Maiduguri, Nigeria, at the People's Institute in Israel. There, the students are an enlightened lot. And what I found out a big difference is, in India, we are having a classroom sort of a setting, number one. The lecturer gives up a lecture and then he goes home. Maybe a few difficulties here and there. There it's not this way. That's a very interactive session. Students are well read. They ask many questions, or rather I would say bombard the lecturer with questions. And after that, something different I found out. Student give comments on whatever is taught. What is his comment, which is not in India? Here, in fact, sometimes students are ridiculed. What comment have you to offer? You go and first study the subject and then would come your comments. But then it doesn't happen there. So, and of course, population is a different ball game there. Population is less, students are less. So there is more involvement of the teacher in the students. And likewise, so that interaction is too high. There is a sort of a friendship and between the teachers and the students, but of course the element of respect and reservation does not go. You understand, sometimes the teachers have a stern demeanor, and then you understand that he has liked certain things and he's not liked certain things. And the rest is, of course, I spoke there on the constitutional perspectives of the problems of minorities in India. In those days, I remember Punjab problem and shooting was rampant and this and that. So what could be the constitutional perspectives of problems of minorities, because Sikhs constitute a minority in India. So my lecture was on that. Different. In Israel, it was on the departmental inquiry in which I hold a doctorate. And say in Nigeria, it was still on something else. But then the common thread which I could pick up with all students is they are an enlightened lot. And you can make out that they have studied at home, and the approach is always a studied one, which something Indian students can emulate. Yeah.
Wow. So now let's go to your next role as a trainer. How do you ensure that your training workshops are effective?
Training workshops, it so happened, to be very frank with you, labor laws is a very technical subject.
Yes.
Say the husband is beating the wife, right or wrong, you can answer it from common sense because you have seen a bunch full of TV serials. But how much subsistence allowance is to be given? 50%, 75%, or 100%? You will not be in a position to answer it unless and until you know what is the answer. So it's a bit of a technical subject. And then my father used to tell me that if you teach somebody, you learn twice. And I wanted something that it has to be ingrained in the subconscious, in my subconscious brain. So I started teaching, and then I have got no right to pinpoint mistakes as far as my teachers are concerned. But I always felt that one should be a good salesman. The teacher should be a good salesman. What is the something intricate which is involved, that has to come to students. Same which, when you argue in courts, you are telling the judge a story. So that has to be very simple, lucid, candid, everything, cogent argument should be there. So all of that, so I entered into training, and then there was the first program, then there was the second program, then there were a few jokes here and there. Then I understood one more thing, that if at all what you are teaching has a color of some humor, then they like it because they get interested into it. So I purposely planted some jokes. So I made a humorous program out of it. And let me share something with you. This training thing, one day I was sitting in my office in my earlier days. As it happens with every lawyer, there were no briefs. So when there were no briefs, so what should I do? And there was a newspaper down there. So I picked up the newspaper, and there was a cartoon on the newspaper, and there was a line written something below it, which gave meaning to the cartoon. So I looked at it. I took out my ball pen, and I wrote something above that. So there were two sentences, and in between there is that picture, and that gave a meaning to it. Now the meaning was more concrete. That gave me an idea. So I hunted out for cartoon books, and then in those days there were transparencies. I mean, this computerization came a bit later. So from that, I cut out all those cartoons, stuck them, wrote one line below, wrote line above. It gave meaning to the cartoon. Likewise, I devised a creative cartoon show on departmental inquiry, and then cracked a few jokes here and there. They were purposely planted, and it became, I don't know. I mean, there were no industries with me in those days, but all these HR managers, IR managers, they were learning also, they were getting entertained also, they were laughing also. And my program, I mean, every nook and corner of Pune and Bombay and all of these, Nasik, Aurangabad, and everywhere I spoke. And of course, it elevated my practice also. At the same time, I became slowly and slowly perfect at the subject. I mean, I cannot claim that I am perfect even today. But then the point is, whatever was earlier in comparison with that, I have improved a lot. By far, we have conducted 1400 workshops in 20 years now, Malegaonkar and Associates. And I mean, from this or that program goes on. Just yesterday, I spoke on industrial rights and the Constitution of India. So likewise, these things go on. And I have also used to teach at esteemed institutions like the ILS Law College at Pune. ILS Law College at Pune gave me an audience. I am indebted to them for all of that. And there are almost not less than, I should say, 60 to 70,000 students I have now all over India. So apart from that, then the other byproducts are very simple. I mean, they call you, they ask, how are you? So it gives a good feeling. Yeah. Somebody, I still remember, I went to a doctor. A couple came and they touched my feet. And then I looked at him. He said, sir, I am your student in 2002. I was in your class. And then he told me a story, which from the story I could make out, yes, he was in my class. So that was the thing. Yeah. So these are the byproducts which you enjoy. I mean, life goes this way. Yeah.
Very good.
Yes.
Yes, emotional moments are there, which I'm also building through my coffee conversation. Okay. So now, what inspired you to become an author and how the journey has been?
Pardon? Author?
What inspired you to become an author?
Yeah, yeah. Now, once you have that, it so happened, I started teaching labor law at one of the esteemed management institutes also. And then one of my professors, Dr. P.C. Shejwalkar, he was Professor Emeritus. And he said, we both are going to write a book on personnel management and industrial relations. I mean, I was about to faint and lay unconscious in my chair when sir said that I'm going to write a book with you. I said, I mean, if I'm just to compare, I'm just a small hillock, whereas sir was Himalayan, whatever I could say. So I said, sir, how can I write with you? He said, no, you are writing. We both are writing the book. We are co-authors. And my name getting associated with Dr. P.C. Shejwalkar, that I would say was a Midas touch, which again, the book is it's almost 650 pages. And then the language which students use is my language today. So that gives a feeling of some contentment and self-satisfaction. But then then I wrote a few books, and maybe my eighth book should be in the stalls, maybe in a couple of months. That book, of course, is not on labor laws. That is written for young budding up lawyers. And I don't know whether you laugh at it, but the name of the book is You Too Can Be a Successful Lawyer. That's the name of the book. It should be in the stalls after a couple of months. And how I have written it is all the constants, hard work and sincerity and this and that. And these are constants in life, without which you will achieve nothing. Apart from that, what is required from a young budding lawyer to be a successful lawyer? That is what is contained in the book. And I'm still happy because the preface, I have received a foreword for that from Honorable Justice H.L. Gokhale of the Supreme Court of India. So, and it's in the print now. So it should take a couple of months. You have to work out the economics also and all of those things. Thereafter, there would be another book, Concepts in Labor Laws. This is for busy people. Say, for example, you are the chief executive officer. You don't have time. Nobody has time. And then I ask you as to, depending on, say, the doctrine of legitimate expectation and on the doctrine of relation back, he's heard these words, but today he's forgotten everything. So what a person should have is he should have only 12 minutes at his disposal. What is doctrine of relation back? What is natural justice? So he'll read through it, including two latest judgments of the Supreme Court, and he gets almost a 95% idea as to what is this topic. 5% for the remainder of the 5%, and he is to spend some 500 years. I mean, that is the depth of the subject itself. But for quick decision making, concepts in labor laws, so that would be the book. And of course, we have started this series in our YouTube channel also. The name of the channel is Simzuu, SIMZUU. So now the concept, earlier the theme was misconducts in industrial employment. So almost 40 videos are already there on YouTube, and then this is just started. So the latest video was on origins of natural justice. So this time the next video is going to be audio alteram partem, that is the right to be heard. Yeah, so it will go on and on and on.
Wow, interesting journey.
Yes,
Interesting journey. So now my next question will be about this Setelwad Prize that you received from the Bar Council of Maharashtra. So what is this prize and what is the significance about this prize?
What happened is, I mean, I was not a very good student in school. In 11th, I scored 37%. I was even, I mean, with 37%, I mean, you can't see a future. Forget career. And people in friends and relatives who had never been to a school or college, they started teasing me. Some of them even nicknamed me as 37 because my percentage was 37%. Then I changed the college. Then I came to another college. And then next year it was some 92%. From 32, the leap was still 92, but however, I didn't qualify to be a doctor, right or wrong, whatever. But then I did my BSc geology. It's all stones, 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 and stones don't change. I stood first again in the University of Pune in BSc geology. But as I told you, stones don't change. A small stint of time, I enrolled myself for MSc geology, that is Masters in Geology, with big dreams as to I will be joining Coal India and Oil and Natural Gas Commission and this and that. But slowly and slowly, I mean, my interest faded and I withered. It started withering. And after 6 months, I drifted on to law. So the question is that I came to law, ultimately landed up in a law college. And then again, sometimes it is fluke one, so it is fluke two also. So in LLB, again, I stood first in the law college. And in those days, Bar Council of India had a prize under the name of Sir Chimanlal Setelwad. And Chimanlal Setelwad, you know, he was a doyen of the bar. Even Mahatma Gandhi, I mean, looked at him in great esteem. And he was of the older generation. His Sadar Amin or something was the title he held. And this was, I still believe that it was something of motivation because I stood first in the university at LLB. So the Bar Council used to honor students, whoever stands first in the university with this prize, that is the Setelwad Prize. Of course, it did motivate me, or still it motivates me. Yeah. So somebody has given me a prize. So why? Because I worked hard. So I should work hard now also. So that hard work goes on. Yes, sir.
Wow. So now, how is technology helped you, sir?
Technology, I've been techno savvy right from days one. I still remember after I started practice, first I had a 286 computer, wherein this cut copy paste command itself was absent. So you have to mark a block and then shift the block. Then came a 386 computer. Then came Pentium 1, Pentium 2. And I purchased all these series. And even now, even my doctorate is, I mean, I took up a software dragon, naturally speaking. I have not typed my doctorate. It's all dictation. I mean, that's perhaps I'm a bit lazy also. So to type is all arduous work. So, I mean, to dictate is pretty simple. I mean, instead of typing, you can dictate very easily. So I went after all these softwares, or even today in my office, we have all the softwares which are there. Anything which is latest available in the market is lands up in my office. So that bent of mind, or you can say a love for technology, everything. I mean, of course, my children called me old school. Both of them have just, I mean, my elder son is also a lawyer practicing into family and criminal and all of that. Younger one has just completed his post-graduation in constitutional law last year. He joined me and they called me old school because according to them, I understand little of computers. Maybe that's the young generation, but I try to keep pace with whatever is the latest in the market. So the gadgets, whatever we have latest, because the speed, I believe, speed is the need of the hour. Once upon a time, I still remember my first writ petition, which it took me 10 days to draft. But then I don't know how, but a little bit of a creativity I have in my head. In those days, I made my own software. And that 10 days drafting of a writ petition was curtailed. 10 days can be 8 days, 7 days. How much? Less. You'll be surprised. I converted 10 days into 3.5 minutes.
Wow.
Writ petition is ready in 3.5 minutes. And then there was a box in that. That is what is in this writ petition, because the facts could be different. That used to take half an hour. But even then, from 10 days, and this is all with whatever I got some engineers and made my own software. Now, I mean, I'm not a technical person, I'm a law graduate, but then these things keep on happening. And with AI and so many things coming in the market, things would be changing. So the face of law would be an ever-changing scenario now. Yes, sir.
Wow. So my last question will be, sir,
Yeah.
what advice would you give to young professionals entering labor laws and industrial relation field?
My advice to young people is, see, what happens is, even in law colleges today, there are only two branches which people knew, civil and criminal, that's it. But there are so many other branches, sports laws, there are space laws, there are maritime laws, there, so is labor industrial law. If you try to pick up some branch of law where there are no players only, then you will take a huge time. Say, if I say space law, sky is the limit, as is the space. But then to be settled and to run a household and make a living on space law, one has to understand things. But this is not the case with labor industrial law. This is not the case with family law. Family law, you have a family bar, which is a smaller bar. But then people are having lucrative practice there also. So is with industrial law. And in industrial law or labor law, the name itself is a bit misleading. In foreign countries, it's called employment law. In India, they call it labor law. Even the subject in colleges is labor law. And sometimes the misleading thing is that people get to understand, people in the sense students, that this is something to do with labor, forgetting the fact that on the other side is a huge management, a mighty management. And you go and read the balance sheet of any management, it's into crores and crores of rupees. So that is the power they have, the economic power. So the economic power of these managements is too huge. So ultimately, people land up into labor industrial law. Well, yes, today, stalwart, big leaders, right from Manohar Kotwal, right from R.J. Mehta, for that instance, Datta Samant, they are not on the senior. So that void or that niche is still there. People require, workers require good union leaders, for which again he has to have knowledge of labor industrial law. Then managements require, there are corporate houses wherein they have a separate department only to cater to labor industrial law. Then you can become consultants. Not every client of yours wants to be landed in legal corridors. In fact, they tell consultants, you do something, suggest us a method that we don't want to enter courts. Because then there'll be layers and layers of appeals, which we can ill afford, and all of those things. So one can become a leader also, one can become a consultant also, one can become, say, departmental inquiry. There is another commodity of lawyers who only conduct departmental inquiries. Why? Because the market is that much. He can make a living on that. And yes, corporate houses are there. Now we in Pune, Malegaonkar and Associates are representatives of, say, Shardul Amarchand to P&A Law in Delhi, to Trilegal, to everybody. I mean, we in Pune. So likewise, you can have types also. Only thing is you have to know the subject. What happens is the students, when they pass out of a law college, they get a piece of paper called as a degree. That is a license that you know the subject, but whether in reality you really know it, for which it may take a few years, but then there ought to be some metamorphosis with yourself. And you said, what would you like to tell the students? What I would like to tell the students is, don't waste a single moment. Because time is the problem. There are two basic problems with the younger generation. One is time, but time is limited. And second is information, but information is abundant. So you have to select the information and filter the information. But whereas time is concerned, you have only 24 hours, all of us. So you have to filter it in such a manner, be disciplined, and then allocate every area of your work, which will ultimately, the goal is to excel in practice. And Rome is not built in a day. So you start doing it today, maybe after 20 years you can see, and then forget your schooling and college and what marks percentage you got there, nothing to do. I mean, I myself I had 37%, I told you, but then that is history is history. I mean, let's not stay in history. Future always remains. So this is what I want to tell the students. Even if you have a dreadful past, forget about it. Today is the first day for the rest of your life. So that is what students should always keep in mind.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
So now we go to the next round, the personal round. So can you share a memorable experience with your family and friends?
Yeah, memorable experiences. There are many, but family. Very recently, we celebrated my mom's 75th birthday. And of course, I mean, my dad was not there because he passed away in 2008. So, and I mean, I was to deliver some speech there and I fell to pieces down in the dumps. What can I say? I started crying. But then, I mean, a family bond is a family bond. Some years back, we decided some different sort of a birthday. My father-in-law's birthday. So we all went to Singapore. Singapore on a cruise, we had a birthday. So all of these different, you can say, approaches to life. Ultimately, it gives flavor to your life. Yeah, a different one.
Yes.
So the family, of course, is very essential.
Okay.
And they are your real motivators.
Wow. So now, so you have traveled all over the world in different places. So which place has is very close to your heart and why?
To point out, I will really mention two places. Some people like mountains, some people like rivers, some people like cities, some people like concrete jungles, some people like man-made cities like Dubai. I like nature and shallow water beaches. I mean, there's a Arabian Sea in Bombay and Alibag also. But if you see, it's brackish water and it's not very clear. Whereas if you go to Maldives, it's shallow water. You can see everything. It's very transparent and all those. So very recently, we had been to Maldives and I loved that place. Next is some places they decrease your blood pressure. You just go there and you feel so happy about it. There's a place in Switzerland called Prince. We stayed there and you take a ferry from there to Interlaken Oost. And that ferry is still something I remember. It still haunts me. So I tell my wife, when are we going again? So these are the two places. Of course, both are natural. Dubai is man-made. So you have a beautiful building, but then ultimately it's man-made. Between man-made and natural, I will always prefer the natural one. Nature is nature ultimately. Yes, sir.
So living in Pune, how has the experience been being a Punekar?
Experience as a Punekar, I love Pune. Right from my childhood, schooling was in Pune, college was in Pune, barring here and there when I went abroad. But the question is, Pune is two types now. One is the old Pune, wherein you have all those pets, Somarpet and Mangalwarpet and all of them. Those gullies are there. And now Pune, I represent Pune Corporation also. So 23 villages are included in Pune Corporation now. So Pune square kilometer wise is larger than Bombay now. And then the metro and this and that, and slowly Pune one day is going to pick up Bombay. That's what Punekars say. And then Pune is a cultural city. You have Ganpati festival, and then Navratra and Diwali is again something very different, and Sankranti is still different, including Christmas. And then you are having an own historical flavor of Pune, right from Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj to Peshwas, everything in Pune. It's full of history, and it's ultimately Oxford of the East. So you have all these big institutions, right from MIT to Bharati Vidyapeeth to Symbiosis to ILS Law College to University of Pune, all in Pune. And it's a very silent city, and that's why you have a military Southern Command is in Pune. So when these all people, those who are in the valleys in Kashmir, and then he stayed there and shooting terrorists in Kashmir for some 3 4 years. Then they say, now you have served the nation enough. You have to go to a silent station. So he's sent to Pune. And lastly, Pune is safe also. Anybody can travel in Pune at the dead of the night at say 2 o'clock and yet be safe. I mean, in comparison with other cities, police, law and order, and everything is still fine in Pune. So in 3 words, I love Pune.
Thank you. So how do you maintain a healthy work-life balance?
Healthy work-life balance is health is not only physical in my opinion, it's mental itself. In the morning I get up, we stay near at a place called Koregaon Park, which has a river besides my house. And Pune Corporation has built up a beautiful walking zone or something of that sort next to the river. So in the morning I get up. While I walk, I'm not idle. There's a pravachan first I listen of say Sudhanshu Maharaj. Sometimes it is Osho Rajneesh. Sometimes it likewise different people. And then is some self development. Then they could be again different, right from Norman Vincent Peale to it could be anybody. So whether it is Robin Sharma or so, and I am walking also. I am hearing that also. It's mental as well as physical. Then a bit of yoga. Yes, now it hardly requires a doctor to tell you that with age you have to change your dietary habits also. So whatever is, but of course, my wife, she is also a doctor in law. Of course, not a practicing lawyer. She teaches law at the ILS Law College, and then she takes care of the whatever is the menu the day. Hmm. I don't know how fussy I am as far as eating is concerned. But then, they hardly have. I don't have her. Whatever she says, the veto is ultimately hers. So she has a final opinion as far as what I am to eat. So in a way, you can say I'm forced to eat. It reminds me of Mark Twain. He had a good health, and he was once asked as to what is the secret to your good health. He said, "Eat what you don't like and drink what you hate, and always you will have good health." So
Wow.
this is happening automatically with me.
Wow.
So that's
Okay.
the way.
Yep.
Yeah, and then little bit of weight training, etc. So when I was in college, I used to go to gyms and everything. Now the thing is that still I'm going to the gym is some 15 20 minutes. So you waste an hour there. In that time, I want everything quick at hand, quick knowledge, quick food. quick roaming here and there. So my salon is at a distance of 2 minutes. My dentist is at a distance of 3 minutes. So I don't waste time traveling time. And then in the morning walk, it's just 1 minute from my house. So I go there and start walking immediately. So that's
Wow.
saving of time. So you can conserve your energy for other important things. Yes, sir.
Yes. So now, so since we are celebrating 70th Independence Day this Thursday, so what does freedom mean to you?
Freedom means to me, I remember the poem written by Rabindranath Tagore, where he said that where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free. Of course, and once upon a time I had the poem by heart, but now I don't remember. But then the thought, which is you can smell the freedom from that poem itself. This is what. Second is a book written by Mahatma Gandhi himself, India of My Dreams. It's a very beautiful book. I'm in love with the personality of Mahatma Gandhi since college. And so that would be freedom here means it's like a Ram Rajya. Everybody is happy. Do we require so many of the politicians? I mean, all the while there are squabbles. What newspapers you read? Should you be reading that? Otherwise, I mean, sometimes it also gives me a thought. Of course, I am a devotee of democracy, but then sometimes you have a question mark. I mean, do we have too much of democracy? Because in the bar room also, you have an bar election amongst lawyers, and again there is a huge politics played under the name of democracy. And then you have to have an electorate, and then you have to woo the electorate, and then you have to take them somewhere to give them as to treat them, and then they should vote for you. Is this the democracy even Mahatma Gandhi expected? Is a question mark. Sometimes I think with myself, is this the way we are going? So what is the cost of that freedom which we really want to enjoy? So maybe all these questions are there, but then ultimately you land up as to what can I do as a person. And then somebody tells you why Mahatma Gandhi was also a single-handed person and he changed everything. You should also change it. But then he is Mahatma Gandhi and I am Shrikant Malegaonkar. So that difference also I understand. So, but then life goes this way. Yeah, in whatever is my bit of changing the world, that I do it through Simzu, making people HR managers, imparting knowledge. So, in my opinion, maybe a little bit I should make the world better than what it is today. So, this is my, I mean, a little bit of whatever uh, things in all humbleness I could do, which I'm doing it.
Wow. So my last question,
Yeah.
describe Shrikant in one line.
Shrikant in one line could be, if I'm to describe myself in one line, it is Shrikant Malegaonkar, crusader against all odds.
Wow.
I'm a crusader against all odds.
Wow. Wow.
That's I mean, there are so many odds right from childhood. I faced this way, that way. Even today, I face it. But then ultimately, the fight remains. I mean, you're a crusader against all odds, whether it is mental, physical, economical, educational, anyway. So, I mean, I would describe myself crusader against all odds.
Yeah. Wow. So let's go to the rapid fire, the fun round, sir.
Yeah.
Which is your favorite
book?
book?
A sip of water.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
So, which is your favorite book?
My favorite book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There are many others also. Robert Kiyosaki.
Okay. Your favorite cuisine?
Favorite?
Cuisine, food dish.
Cuisine. Okay. My favorite is fish Hunan. It's a Chinese dish. Fish Hunan. Dry fish Hunan, to be very specific. Yeah.
Wow. Your favorite song?
आना है तो आ, राहों में कुछ फेर नहीं है, भगवान के घर दे रहे अंधेर नहीं है. It has always motivated me.
Wow.
जब तुझसे ना सुलझे तेरे उलझे हुए धंधे, भगवान के हाल पे सब छोड़ दे बंदे, खुद ही वो तेरी मुश्किल आसान करेगा. That song.
Super. Tea or coffee?
I mean, I couldn't hear you properly.
Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Let's raise.
Tea. Yeah, but this coffee. Yeah, at time on special occasions, coffee.
Okay, good. You're a morning person or night owl?
Morning person.
Okay. Best piece of advice you have ever received?
Best piece of advice I have ever received is don't waste your time. Because
Wow.
on that's what I advise others also, the students also.
Yes.
Time is the most depreciating commodity. It's now, it's never, it's gone.
Wow. And your favorite color?
Blue and green. If I
Wow.
am to choose between them, it's green then, light green.
Good. So you get this copy, which will
Thank
be
you so
autographed
much.
and sent to you.
Thank you so much, sir.
So my friends, it was an enriching conversation we had with Dr. Shrikant Malegaonkar, understanding the nuances of labor law, industrial relations, and he is an author, trainer, and now a YouTuber. Do subscribe to his channel, and you want to learn labor laws, he is a man to go to, and companies who want to assign or engage for labor laws and industrial relations, Dr. Shrikant Malegaonkar and his company is the one to go to. Do subscribe when this episode is available. Watch the episode. And there are 180 plus episodes on our Coffee Conversation Show with different subject experts. We connect, meet another expert, and have an engaging conversation. So happy 78th Independence Day. Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.